Hello, and welcome to another episode of Winning Where It Matters. My name is Kyei Amoako, and it's a pleasure to have you join me once again. Years ago, I was an auditor, and part of my job was to go into companies and, um, as part of a team, review their financial records and issue a financial statement, audited financial statements, so they could file with the Securities and Exchange Commission. There were two reports that we talked about a lot as far as the filings go. So there's the 10K, which they filed annually, and then the 10Q, which they filed quarterly. At the time, I didn't think too much about why companies were required to file quarterly and then annually. But years later, I came to understand that the reason they do that is these publicly traded companies are using other people's money, right? They're investors who bought stocks in these companies, and it is to give them transparency. If you wait for a whole year before the company reports on how it's doing, it might be too late for the investors to make changes, right? So if the company is losing money or they're not profitable, you don't want to wait till December to find out that they went all 12 months and were just losing money. So if there's quarterly filings, the CEO will come up, and at the end of they call that quarterly earnings calls, the CEO will explain things, people will ask questions, and just making sure that they're doing what they said they would do, right? So companies have made commitments to the investors, and the SEC requires 10Qs to be filed every quarter, just so there's transparency and investors can know that the companies are doing what they said they will do. How does this relate to our personal lives? I think at the beginning of the year, most of us made commitments to ourselves. There were goals that we set, there were things that we said we were going to do. And if you think of yourself as an entity, right? You incorporated, you are an entity. And so if companies do that, provides transparency and accountability, might be a good idea to adopt this idea of quarterly reporting. And you don't have to report anything to the SEC, but you can report to yourself, right? It could be a good practice to pause after every 90 days to take stock, to check to see what's going on with the commitments you've made, what's going on with the business of you, right? Because you, like a company that needs to be profitable to stay alive, you need to do some things. You need to stay on course with the things that you have promised yourself, the things that you need to do to be functional, the things you need to do to get to your goals. So I want to propose this idea. Just as companies do 10Qs, think about a personal 10Q. Um, Pausing every 90 days, because a whole year, if that's what you're waiting for before you look back and see how your year went, it might be too late to correct some things. So if you think of it in chunks of 90 days, you're going to have 4 quarters in a year to pause, take stock, and adjust where you need to adjust. Um, Last year, I shared a worksheet, a personal reflection worksheet, which you may use as a tool for reflecting and coming up with your own personal 10Q. And this is simple concept where with a worksheet with 4 quadrants, you think about and write down your highlights, your challenges, your decisions, and your surprises. And it could be a very simple exercise, but if you put a little bit of thought into it, you could find out it's very beneficial. Because what would happen if you don't pause to reflect is you're just going to move past the first 90 days into the next 90 days and may not even take notice of some major highlights that um, you just chalked. You may not realize the challenges that you may need to give a little bit more attention to so you could make the most of the next 90 days. You may not realize the decisions that you're making that's altering the outcomes that you expect, or surprises, things that you didn't plan for but happened that you need to take note of. So there's benefit in pausing and reflecting and writing things down so then you could capture what's happening in these big four quadrants. So definitely your highlights: what went well, what are you proud of? Challenges: what is getting in the way, what's causing you frustration and pain? Decisions: what are the choices you're making? What are the choices you're making? What routines are you choosing to practice? What relationships are you spending your time in? And then surprises: what happened that you didn't expect, and what did you learn from it? So if you would, get a copy of this worksheet, get a pen, write it down, get it out of your head and onto a paper, and sit with that. Sit with your reflection. That's your personal thank you. You're taking stock of what's going well, what you need to do differently, so then the next 90 days you can make the most of it. And if you have a coach, next time you're going to meet with your coach, bring that sheet in, that inventory of what your highlights are, what your challenges are, what your decisions are, and what your surprises are. And I think that will make for a great conversation. If you don't have a coach, but you would like to work with one, you could reach out to me and I could help you where I can, or recommend somebody that will best fit your needs. As always, I believe in you, and I hope you believe in yourself too. I'll see you on the next one.